Hi, everyone. This is Chris and Jordan. You're watching Market Minute, episode 2, The Pathway to Prosperity Through Real Estate. I'm joined once again with my good friend Jordon Sutton from Jordon Sutton and Associates of the Sutton Group. How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on. I had a great time last week.
Happy to have you again. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, no, the pathway to prosperity. This is going to be a good one.
I agree. I'm excited for it. I'm also excited for this. So in working with Jake Healy for a number of years, he has earned his stripes, and I'm now promoting him to partner status. So, and as such, we are rebranding, still under the mortgage group. We love that family. We're not leaving them. We love their support. We're going to continue to work with them, of course, but we are rebranding to Adkins, Healy and Associates with a new logo, and of course, we're moving forward together. So really excited to bring that forward, and you'll see more in the coming weeks, but just wanted to share that before we dive in.
Wow, beautiful logo. Jake's a great guy. I've worked with him many times too. Makes
Well,
the number simple. You guys are a great team.
well, we're excited to expand and continue to grow. So thank you for your support. So this one, as alluded to, is called The Pathway to Prosperity, and really what the bare bones of it is why leveraging O.P.M is the key to building personal wealth. We'll get into a little bit later on what O.P.M actually stands for, but really creating personal wealth is a huge thing that I'm an advocate of, and ways to do it. Like, this is a really clear line, straight line way to do it, and it's really quite cool and unique. So disclaimer, this is not advice. These are my opinions. And my opinion is that real estate investment is a better bet than any other investment. Would you agree with that, Jordan?
I mean, specifically Metro Vancouver real estate, we got 100 year of great returns to back us up on that. So I would definitely agree with that.
Okay. I'm with you. We're both investors ourselves, and we've seen the benefit of investing in real estate. But often people, like, what keeps people up at night? Here are 3 burning questions that most people have trouble answering themselves. What's the best way to build wealth for retirement? We know the traditional methods. We know that, investment portfolios, RSPs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all of that. Those are our tools, but what's the best way? What's the best approach to building wealth for retirement? Another one that keeps people up at night: how can I save for my child's education? If you just bring a child into this world now, it's not going to be for another 18 years before they're actually going into post-secondary education. So it's a little daunting for a lot of people on how they can save for their child's education that far into the future. And another one here that I get specifically is, how can I pay off my mortgage faster? So 3 burning questions that keep people up at night. These are them. These are the main 3. And here's what we've been taught. Look at this girl. She's working hard. Well, yeah, she's working hard. She's living cheap, and she's investing whatever she doesn't spend, essentially, right? So exactly this. Whatever we don't spend, we should invest and hope at the end of it to have enough savings for retirement. Does that sound familiar to you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, financial literacy is something that's so important and so often overlooked. But you definitely need to be investing, and hopefully you can be investing in the right assets to help make your returns that much more effective.
Yeah, totally. Well, so something like this. Look at this guy. It says work hard, right? But work hard, save all your money, so when you're old, you can afford things that only young people enjoy. Like, I just love this photo because this old gentleman, bless his heart, he's riding a motorcycle, and he probably is a bad mo, but
It's like a bad.
he looks like a badass, right? But essentially, what this illustrates for me is that, but he wants to do the things that he can enjoy when he's younger, but he can't really afford to do that until he's much older. So by the time he reaches retirement age or beyond, he can't really afford to do the things that he was hoping to enjoy when he was young enough to enjoy them, right? And that's really kind of the problem with this plan. So how much wealth you build is largely dependent on when you started investing and how much money you've invested. Whether we're talking about day one initial investment, or your contributions and your continued contributions over time, how much you actually end up with at the end of the day is largely dependent on when you started investing and how much money you've invested and continue to invest. So if we don't start our retirement savings plan or RRSPs until we're 30, 35, 40, it's going to be a lot more daunting to try and achieve the same goals than if we started investing when we're 18.
Totally. It can seem like such a tall mountain. When you're first getting started, you'll never get there. But, after year 1, year 2, year 3, you're starting to see the effects of compound interest and all these things. It's really a lot more simple if you're working with the right people than it looks.
Right. But really, the big key here is starting early and making sure you have enough and you continue to contribute. Otherwise, it's just, you're not going to get the same benefit of the compounded interest than you would if you started later in the game.
Definitely.
Right. One of the problems with this plan is the stock market, which, of course, if your RSPs, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, all of that stuff here, that's really another way of saying that we're investing that money into a stock market, right? Into the stock market. But of course, that's volatile and unpredictable. We've all seen that, like with COVID-19, most recently. Of course, there's been some recoveries in the stock market, but look at an example 10, 12 years ago here with the financial crisis. A lot of people lost their shirts, and quite frankly, they lost half or more of their retirement portfolio in a couple of days. So profit and loss is largely emotionally charged as well. So even if you're of a sound mind and a sound investor, if you're sharing that investment with a whole pool of other people and they react emotionally, your ups and downs are largely out of your control, and that's scary.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine seeing everything you owned, the values cut in half in a couple of days, and not wanting to sell and get out of there either. The stock market is just so volatile. If you're not a professional or working with some super professionals, I wouldn't even recommend touching it.
Yeah, and a lot of people have that sentiment. That's their takeaway when it comes to investing because of those big, huge drops that we've seen in our recent history. And that's one of the major reasons why people are afraid to contribute to the RSP or the retirement plan confidently.
For sure.
Right? Another problem with this plan: saving for your child's education, paying off your mortgage, and building wealth for retirement. It requires a lot of your own money, right? We talked about contributing towards your RSPs. Hopefully you start early, but really it requires a lot of your own money. And with the rising cost of living, it's getting harder and harder to save. So that's a problem, right? So another problem with the plan is that not only does the solving those three pain points require a lot of your own funds and a lot of your own money, the rising cost of living, it's actually getting harder and harder to save.
For sure. I mean, if you're only using your own funds from your own job, you're not investing, it's incredibly hard to pay for retirement, to pay for education. If you're just depending on your job solely, paying for these things can be incredibly difficult.
Well, you've got a young boy. Like would this not enter into your own mind here? And the post-secondary education is getting more and more expensive every year. By the time your boy is ready for post-secondary, I know that you're contributing to your RESPs, and we're certainly advocates, and we want to continue to advocate that you're working with a professional when it comes to investing and making the right choices there. But you're limited in what you can contribute in your RESP, and you're topped out, and like you got a maximum as well, so you're capped at a maximum contribution level as well. So if post-secondary education is getting more expensive year after year, that's a little challenging for people to wrap their head around, and it causes concern. Like, would it not cause you concern if that was your only avenue?
Definitely, like the schools are so expensive nowadays. RESPs are great, but they do limit you to $2,500 a year. And education is a lot more expensive than $2,500 a year. So if you're able to, invest more in doing something like investment in real estate, can definitely help you pay off some post-secondary education.
I agree, right? Another problem with this plan: rising house prices means larger mortgages and more money, i.e. down payment and income needed to qualify. We live in Metro Vancouver. We've seen it ourselves in our own lifetime here. While we're investors ourselves, we've seen it happen, right? But
Mhm.
just gaining entry into the market would be more of a challenge if we're left on the sidelines here. So certainly we do recommend people to have those discussions with the professionals in the corner. But this is also something that keeps people up at night, is that how am I going to get into the market? If I can't gain that barrier, it's only going to get more expensive here. It's going to be more out of reach next year or more out of reach the year after, right? So that's a challenge for people as well.
For sure. I always say you're never going to outsave the market. Vancouver market does what it does, and to outsave that and stay outside of it is incredibly difficult.
Oh, I totally agree. Absolutely. So how do we solve these three pain points? Well, a lot of people do this. They get a second job, right? I have got a lot of clients who are very industrious, like they are hardworking people that, want to make ends meet, but more importantly, they don't want to get behind and they don't want to get into considerable debt. So getting a second job is a really viable option. And for a lot of people, it is mostly their only option when it comes to staying ahead and not getting underwater.
Hmm.
Right? The other option is you live like a monk. Right? You
Yeah.
could, and like all joking aside, it's saying get rid of all your worldly possessions, live modestly, live cheap, like we discussed already. But basically, sport like pinch pennies, pinch pennies, pinch pennies.
No more Starbucks.
No Starbucks, definitely not Starbucks. Like, well, we can talk about the latte factor, of course, the coffee factor, but that's a good savings mechanism as well. If you understand that analogy, it's basically saying that if you don't spend $5 a day on Starbucks, how much money can you save? Well, certainly we're going to recommend budgeting, but living like a monk is the extreme, and it's saying, how do I stay ahead? How do I solve these three pain points? One of the options, all tongue in cheek, of course, is do I live like a monk? Do I discard, sell off all my worldly possessions, pinch every penny that I've got, and hope that my investments pay off for me in the end, and make sure I contribute as much as possible by limiting my expenses? That's what it is by living like a monk, right? But not very viable. That's not a realistic option for people, because then are you really enjoying life? We get one go of this here. Like, are you really enjoying your life if you're limiting your options and you're limiting your life in that degree?
It's so important to invest because investing makes every single year easier than the year before. So living like a monk may be the option, but I think there's a lot better options out there for you.
I don't disagree. So, the answer to all three, like how do we solve these three pain points, might be this. The answer to all three may be to buy and own investment property or properties, right? We can both speak to that as far as the smart investment by ourselves. We're both real estate investors, and buying and owning real estate in general is just a great plan here. But let's go dive a little deeper on the investment side of it.
For sure.
So one thing we talked about, O.P.M. The key to this whole plan is to leverage O.P.M. And O.P.M. stands for, say it with me, buddy.
Other people's money. Oh,
Money.
sorry, I cut you off there.
All good, buddy. All good. But again, other people's money, that's what O.P.M. stands for here. So how do we leverage other people's money instead of our own? This is how we do it. So you can pay off your mortgage in 10 years or cut your amortization in half by owning just one investment property, and I'll show you how. You could put your kids through university and, of course, build extra wealth for retirement. This is solving the three pain points. This is solving the three burning questions that keep people up at night. How do you pay off your mortgage in 10 years or cut it in half? How do you pay for your kids' education? And how do you build extra wealth for retirement? Let's show you how. What if you had 100,000 available and you took that into your bank? Well, if you try to invest in a business, you're basically investing in a full-time job, are you not?
For sure.
Like 9 to 5, more like 9 to 9.
Even more than a full-time job, because you have the risk and you have all the liability and work. So
Absolutely.
definitely.
Shares, we've already talked about how risky that can be and how people are more apprehensive about even entering the market and contributing to their retirement savings plan. Even though it's a smart investment, it pays off over time, we're going to see what the bank favors by these next two. So if you were lucky enough that the bank matched your initial investment, now your 100,000 is matched by their 100,000 in this example right here. Same goes for the shares. Again, if we're lucky, it's actually in reality a lot less than that, if at all. But let's just play devil's advocate and say that the bank matched your initial investment of 100,000, and you got 100,000 of your money and 100,000 of the bank's money for investing it in your business or investing in the stock market, there we are. Look at the third one here in property. If your initial 100,000 is the investment, what's the bank willing to give you if your asset you're trying to invest in is property? It's 4 to 1.
Yeah.
Right? Big difference there. So 200,000 in the first two examples. Property, we talked about it being 4 to 1. Your total asset here is 500,000 compared to the 200,000 here that you initially started with here on the other two examples. So what if your goal was to make $100,000 over a 5-year period? In the first two examples, you would need a 50% return. So that's assuming that you're going to get 10% per year on your stock market and your shares and your investment in your RSPs. What do you need on property? You actually only need 20% return. So what does that speak to when it's 4 to 1 lending ratio and a 20% return? What does that speak to in your mind here, Jordan?
It means that the banks are much more willing to lend on real estate.
Yeah.
You know, they're considering it's a lot safer of an investment, and they'll use a lot more of their funds to invest with you in a real estate project than they would in the case if you wanted to invest in a business or in the stock market. They're not going to open up their wallets nearly as much as they will if you wanted to invest in real estate.
Totally agree, and that's exactly what the numbers say. So what if you would like a 25% return on your investment? You purchase an investment property, a rental property here for 500,000, invest your initial 100,000, and the bank lends you 400. That's O.P.M level 1. That's other people's money level 1. Level 1 is borrowing against it here to have a mortgage. It's the bank's money in this case here. So that's other people's money. It's only 100,000 of your own money and 400,000 of their money. So let's just say that property values increased by 5%. Now, I don't think I'm like reaching too far when I use 5% for the return on investment. Like from your own research and from your own experience, am I like out to lunch when I'm using 5% here, Jordan?
No, not at all. The Metro Vancouver last 35 years have averaged 6%. So I think your numbers may be a little conservative, but it's good for our example here.
Okay, well, let's continue forward here and see how this plays out here. So if the property values increased by 5%, your $500,000 asset, that property is now worth $525,000. That's gone up by $25,000. You have a 25% return on your initial $100,000 investment in year 1.
Wow.
Of course, we talked about the compound effect when it comes to your RSPs and contributing early and often. That's how you have the compound effect working for you in your investment portfolio when we're talking about your RSPs. Look what happens when you do it with a much more valuable asset like in real estate. The power of owning just one investment property. Look at this. Year 1, you bought it at 500, assuming per annum it increases by 5%. At the end of year 1, you're at 525. Transfer over to year 2 and continue on. That's your return after year 2. And of course, if we extrapolate all the way to the end of year 5, here's your big fat juicy number, 638,141. That's what the market has done for you, assuming, of course, consistent growth of 5% per year. So that's the difference between your purchase price of 500 and the new value is 138,141. That's a decent return in a 5-year period. Don't forget this. Your principal pay down based on an interest rate of 3.5%, which is higher than the current market. Like it's much lower right now, but let's just assume it's 3.5%. Your mortgage is being paid down by 51,000, just shy of 52. So your net benefit, net gain here is 189, just shy of 190, $190,000 after 5 years. And O.P.M is ruling the day right here as well. We're talking about 51,709 of other people's money. That's tier 2. That's level 2 of O.P.M is you're actually buying an investment property that you're not living in, of course. You're renting it out to a tenant. They are paying your mortgage for you, and then the market is doing the rest.
That's amazing. So in 5 years, you've almost turned your 100,000 into 300,000.
Well, look at this. We know that number for 5 years. Look what happens after 10. This is the power of compounding when it comes to a much more valuable asset. 189 jumps up to 427. Potential increase in net worth after 20 years, 1.1 million, right? And look what happens
Yeah.
in 3 years. Now, I would kiss the feet of my financial planner and basically think that he lives in a gold house and everything's painted in gold and covered in gold if he did any of these returns on my $100,000 investment here initially after 5 years, 190%. Look at what it is after 10 or 20 or 30. Like, that is remarkable when
So
it
yeah,
comes.
your initial 100,000 is what is worth 2.1 million after 30 years.
Got it.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think a financial planner with 100,000 would even come halfway close
Well,
to that.
maybe if you're Warren Buffett, right?
You found
Or
Amazon at the beginning, yeah.
Amazon or Tesla or something, like if you're lucky to get it on those two companies here at ground zero, maybe, right? If you're only playing with 100,000 in the stock market here, that's a huge return. But it's way more achievable. It's much more achievable in real estate because you're dealing with a more valuable asset from the beginning, aren't you?
For sure.
Right? Well, like to answer the question of how do we answer these three burning questions, how do I pay off my mortgage in 10 years? There's your 10-year number, right? Your 20-year number, when you talk about number two here, pay for your kids' education. Most people start a little bit early when they're planning to have kids. By the time your child's first wanted to enter in post-secondary world, 1.1 million isn't just paying for one child. If you have a whole litter of kids, you're paying for their education, are you not?
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
You
If
do.
you're at all interested in paying off your mortgage, paying for all your kids' educations, retirement, and you're not using other people's money, I can't imagine having to save $2.1 million,
I know.
without using it.
Well, that's what number three talks about here is like after 30 years, like if you invested even at starting at 30 years old, if you wanted to retire at 60, 2.1 million is really a healthy addition to whatever you've contributed to your own retirement savings plan. So and you're not using your own money, you're using what? Other people's money to do so.
That 100,000 can pretty much take care of you in 30 years. That's kind of what I'm looking at here. That's impressive numbers.
Don't forget that's one, right? That's one. And if you have
That's just
an existing property too, then you can leverage it again. You can refinance, restructure your mortgage, borrow the equity that you built already, that you've benefited from market and your own contributions to your mortgage. You can take that money and leverage it, right? You're using other people's money again. You're using the bank's money on a refinance to take equity out of your current home. You can do that too. So you have two properties. You can then, of course, if you think about how this can affect you later on in life, you're having somebody else pay for your mortgage when you own a rental property, that they are building equity and the market is also building equity for you by just lifts and increases in value over time. If you leverage that property in the future and borrow against that to provide for a new down payment on another property, all you're really doing is doubling and tripling and at least giving you that potential to double or triple the numbers I just showed you, right? It's ridiculous.
No, for sure. If you're sitting on 100,000 in equity in your property right now, and you can do that investment property, I guess the most important thing is to do it as soon as possible and enjoy the benefits of the compounding,
Exactly
because
right.
that's amazing return results over the time. But you just got to let it work.
I know. Well, the numbers speak for themselves, really. And you and I talked about this offline. So what now? Really, this for saying review your options with your mortgage broker, get pre-approved, and get your plan prepared. Now, your plan should include 5 pillars of people in your team. Now, the 5 pillars are: you want to have an excellent mortgage broker, you want to have a great realtor like in Jordon and Sutton here, you want to have a great financial planner, because we have never spoken negatively against a financial planner. They are an important piece, like a good financial plan and contributions to your RSPs, your ESPs, and everything else here under the sun. It's best to do it with an independent advisor, but make sure that a good, solid financial planner is part and parcel to your team. The other two that we're talking about here is get a great lawyer and make sure you have an excellent accountant so that you can avoid the costs, you can avoid costs and mistakes, and you can make sure that your whole plan is tax beneficial as well.
For sure. No, it's so important to be working with strong partners, good brokers, good realtors, good lawyers, good accountants, they always compound each other as well. Like we're talking about the compounding rates.
Mhm.
And then another advantage of working with strong partners like yourself, you have opportunities that come across your desk that just aren't available to everybody else.
Mhm.
I know a lot with that with real estate too. So when you have great partners, they bring in great opportunities, and they're able to provide even greater results than the average.
Well, one thing that we are advocates of with myself and Jake, we do recommend, we always set up our clients here to make sure that your payment is efficient, so that you're paying off your mortgage faster just automatically by setting up an efficient repayment plan from day one. And we will check in with you to make sure you're continuing to do that and continue to optimize your mortgage. But the other more important factor often, yes, that's huge. You want to make sure it's efficient and make sure that every payment you're making is actually contributing towards your principal reduction much faster than if you paid just minimum once per month, as an example. The other part of it is you really want to make sure your mortgage is flexible, so that if you were to see an opportunity that Jordan, you bring across the desk and say, look at this area, look at this particular development, this is a great potential here because they're going to put in a SkyTrain in the next couple of years and the value is only going to go up. We don't want those opportunities to pass you by having an inflexible mortgage plan where your penalty to break your mortgage return would be highly prohibitive, and it wouldn't make sense. So we don't want our clients to be on the sidelines should an opportunity strike. We want to make sure you can take advantage of it with as little pain as possible. And really, that really is boiling down to having an efficient repayment plan on your mortgage, but also making sure that your mortgage is optimized for opportunity in the future as well.
No, it's amazing the little differences all these details can make add up so much in the end.
Well, it's huge, and you know what? This is the waters are muddy and they're choppy and they're scary. We want to make sure that we put all of our team, including our clients, in the same boat, and we're all rowing together, and we can get through this. But we have the advantage of our expertise and our knowledge, and really, like you, we treat our clients like family. We want to make sure they're well taken care of, and I know you do that with your clients as well.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So anybody who is looking for contact here, now we do have a summary. We talked about shares, business, and property. Property is what the bank banks on. Leveraging other people's money is a great way for you to pay off your home, for your kids' education, and build wealth for retirement. But like I said, if you are looking for contact information, screen cap this here right now. This is Jordon Sutton. He's an excellent real estate agent. He's a good friend, and he's incredible at what he does. You can screen cap it here and get in touch with him. And here's mine as well.
Wow, looking sharp there, Chris.
Thanks, brother. So are you. Well, you're looking better than I am in person, that's for sure.
The
Well,
wife haircut are not bad.
you look good, man. Yeah, exactly. Well, I just wanted to thank you again, Jordan, for joining us this week. And I'm looking forward to next week where we're going to talk about more opportunity when it comes to building wealth. And it's the vehicle, the strategy that we're going to talk about in more detail is pre-sales, where you're an expert.
Yeah, no, pre-sales are a huge opportunity right now. We've seen developers set prices a lot lower than they have in the last couple of years. So we've seen investors all flocking to pre-sales. So I'm really excited to talk about next week's episode.
Awesome. Well, good to see you as always. We'll see you next week, Jordan. Take care, buddy.
Thank you very much.